let's get into it. How to take charge of your career. First, let me tell you a little bit about me. So, like I mentioned, I'm Sadaf, and this is my title. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, a little bit of background. Okay, so I came to Canada when I was 18 years old as an international student. And I tell this story because I suspect there may be some international students in the room today. I know a lot of who are joining us are students. And so some of you might be people who are trying to figure out what is all this business about your career, because it works differently in different parts of the world. And so I had a similar experience. If you're kind of experiencing that like confusion, you're like, I don't know how to navigate this. I came here thinking that like I was coming for school and life was going to be simple because I'd been to school my entire life, and it was like, how difficult could it be? I've already done it for like 19 years. But I was mistaken. It was challenging. I came for like a whole new life. And throughout the years, I am so grateful to have had the jobs that I've had and the people mentoring me that I was able to communicate with and build relationships with. And I am here to share a little bit about my personal experiences, some of the best practices that here at 10,000 Coffees we adopt with our academic students and our users who are you. Some of you may be brand new to the table and joining 10,000 Coffees for the first time, so welcome. We're going to help you navigate stuff for your career on your own, and also help you understand how to use 10,000 Coffees to really take it to the next level. In my free time, when I'm not working, I am a salsa dancer. I love dancing. That's kind of like my passion. And I have two little kitties who I'm obsessed with, so obsessed. And there's a good chance that you will see one or both of them during the course of this session. I'll try not to let them distract me too much. And also you try not to let them distract you too much because they're very cute. And here's the little picture that you see on the screen of them. I have to tell everyone about them. They're pandemic babies. This is what happens when you're locked up for so long, right? Anyway, let's get going. Okay, so what are we going to learn? What are we going to establish and accomplish during this session? Three main things I want you to walk away with, okay? One is that you're going to be able to leverage the tools that are available to you to take charge of your own career. So you're not waiting for somebody else to tell you, okay, this is a job, this is what you're going to do, this is how to do it. You're going to learn how to use the 10,000 Coffees platform to make it work for you. Okay, it doesn't work the same for everybody. It's like you're going to take control over your journey on 10,000 Coffees. I'm going to walk you through how to do that. You're also, at the end of this, going to go out and be totally prepared and armed to build your personal and professional brand. Okay? Let's get into it. Some of us, and I want you to go ahead in the chat box and just put like a yes if you agree with any of these. Just go yes, 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 yes. Okay. I don't think there's a putting a hand up feature in WebEx. I don't think so. But if there is, go ahead and use that. And Denise will kind of, Denise and Elliot will tell me what's going on because I can't exactly see everything. Okay. So how many of us feel that you're in school or just graduated and you don't know where your first job or your next job is coming from? Any yeses? Just go in the chat. Keep putting them in. How many of us assume that applying for a job that you think you're qualified for is enough to be considered for the role? How many of us do not fully understand how to find a mentor? Hello, there isn't a guidebook on this. Well, actually, we do have one. How to find a mentor or network, but everyone says that you need both for your career. So everyone tells you need to go out and do these things or have these things, but you're not sure entirely like how to get there or how to do that. Are there any yeses, or like am I the only one who feels this way?
Lots of yeses in the chat, Sadaf.
All right, yes. And how many of us are a little bit nervous or a bit afraid and somewhat confused about the early stages of our career? So if you are here and you've been here in your career, for a long time, maybe you've joined this session because you're trying to make a transition into a new section. So you're making like a move laterally or, industry change or whatnot. But otherwise, I think a lot of us here today are going to be early in our careers, either still students trying to figure that out. So this is normal. And please understand that, look, with all the yeses that you're seeing in the chat, you are not alone. And we are going to tackle all of these things in this session as we go ahead. So I'm going to do like a reality check with you guys, okay? Like straight up, there's some things that we're going to assume as we go into this session is that your next job isn't going to arrive on a silver platter. Nobody's going to be like, come here, this is your job. We've been waiting for you. Oh my God. When growing up, I used to think that. And because I grew up in a very sheltered home and community, and it was like, yeah, my dad or my cousin or my uncle or someone's going to call someone and get me a job. Yeah, in North America, it doesn't work like that. I mean, it might in certain circles, but chances are no. Okay, now we're also going to assume that the journey of building your career is going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. Okay, but the good news is that we all have the ability to learn the skills and arm ourselves with all the tools required to be super successful. Okay, we're also going to assume, for the sake of this session and your career, please take my advice, is that having a network is essential to your career and life success. And I say life success because, and I could do an entire session on this alone, when we talk about networking, it is not just about building a professional career. It is building a skill of building relationships, making relationships, making friends. And so you're going to need that on a personal level, particularly if I have an international student in the room here today or any new immigrants. As you are looking at your life in Canada, to be successful, you need to have a personal network as well as a professional network. Okay, another reality check. Success is not coming overnight. If you want a job tomorrow and you start networking today, please do not expect it to arrive again on that silver platter, okay? It is going to take time. But again, we're going to learn because there's skills that we need to learn and they are learnable. So if someone says, oh, I don't know how to network, it feels uncomfortable, you can learn how to do this. I didn't know how to network when I started years and years ago, and now I cannot stop doing or talking about it. Also, you're ready to do the work. You're here, you took the first step. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here and being taking, because you, if we talk about taking charge, you're taking charge right now by showing up here and talking. You're networking just by being in this session, but you're also learning about how we're going to do all the next steps and the next steps. So eventually, after all of these assumptions, we are also going to assume that you can and have the ability to take charge of your future and its success. And we're going to talk about that more in detail. Woo-hoo! Yes, just like this guy on his computer. So let's break it down. Now, I have broken it down because I like to put everything in steps. Everything is 1, 2, 3. That's part of the salsa dancer in me, by the way. But we're going to break that down into 3, okay? The first step, what is it? What do you do when you have to try and figure out your career and you're trying to take charge? What are the first steps? So what I didn't talk to you about in my intro is that I also teach career development part-time at a few Ontario colleges. And so I've taught this to my students, and time again, I find this is the first place to start. And that is reflection. You have to do a lot of reflection before you start your journey in terms of your career. Okay, and I want to break this down into 2 simple, basic little tasks that I'm going to ask you to do. And it sounds basic, but it'll take you a bit of time, okay? So set aside time to do these things as you go ahead. And the first is to figure out who you are. Things like your strengths and weaknesses, your likes and dislikes. What skills do you have and which are missing from your skill set? What personality type do you have? There's a very popular and free personality assessment test that you can take, which is called 16 personalities. Literally just go Google it and you can take it for free, and they have 16 personalities and they tell you your strengths and weaknesses and personality type, and that's just one of a gajillion. But the idea here with the personality test is to figure out how you work well, how you learn well. Because as you go on this career journey, it's going to be super important for you to know that you're engaging and you're taking in information in the best way possible. For example, my introverts learn differently from my extroverts, right? Because they get their energy from different places. Also, how you network will be determined by if you're an introvert or an extrovert. Do not walk into a huge big room with a gajillion people and like just walk up to the biggest group possible if you're an introvert and you're trying to network for the first time. right? So these pieces of information are useful to help you understand who you are so you can take the best possible action for yourself as you're building your career. There's other methods for those people who are introverts and can't necessarily do that. Okay. And the other thing is to then figure out what your goals are. Figure out what you really, really want to do. Okay, there are tons and tons of resources out there. If I had to go through this, we would have a 9-week course right here. Okay, and maybe one day we're going to do that. 10,000 Coffees is going to have a career development from 10,000 Coffees, and that's my goal. That's my vision. But today we're talking how to take charge. Okay, so you can Google all this stuff, and I expect you to take charge of your career by going to figure all that out. Okay, the next thing is where we're going to start is looking closely at your network. Okay, because we already established in the assumptions page that having a network is essential for success, right? So where are you going to start? If you have family here, please look at your family. Legit, they are bound by blood to you. They have to help you, you know, like they just don't have a choice. So this is a good place to start. Now, if your family doesn't have a really good network, likely they have a network that you don't really realize because people have neighbors and friends and colleagues and whatnot. And even when you don't realize that's a network in which you can leverage. Look at your friends. Who are your existing friends? Who do you meet through your school, your professors, your perhaps career advisors? Who are you making contacts with that are able to help you in understanding your career, perhaps introduce you to people, open doors to people at other companies? What kind of a relationship are you building with those people? Ask yourself these questions as you're doing step 1, the reflection work. Your social networks. Okay, look, right now, if there's anyone in this group who does not have a profile on LinkedIn, please go right away and create one, because if you don't have a personal brand for your professional life, then you don't exist. Like, how are people supposed to find you, right? But don't only rely on LinkedIn. Look at your other social networks. There are several. Your Facebook network is just as much a network as your LinkedIn network, okay? Just probably a little bit different. You're posting different things, people share different things, but it is still a network. So start taking note of these things, because you might end up finding business contacts through that as well. Also, let's look at community or sports organizations. Perhaps you have a community center nearby. Perhaps you have a religious organization that you're connected with, and that they have a community organization where they have events, or you meet people through that. Think about your network just beyond what you would typically see in school or in class, but in all aspects of your life. Hobbies, if you play a game, if you play cricket, if you play baseball, basketball, netball. Is that a thing in Canada? No, I don't think so. It was a thing when I grew up. I grew up in, okay, anyways, good. It's not about me, I know. Okay, step 1 is done because we don't have time and we got to keep moving on. Step 2. I want you to take all of that information that you have learned in step 1 and build your confidence. Because you're figuring out who you are, and then you just gotta own it. You just gotta go, okay? You are gonna feel fear. Let me tell you something. I think I have time to tell you this story, is that essentially our brains are designed, they are wired to protect us. You know what that means? That means when your brain is faced with a situation that it has never faced before, it does not have the blueprint stored inside it to tell it what to do. So it has to think harder. It has to be like, I need to figure out how to navigate this new situation. And so if you've never networked before, or you're uncomfortable networking, your brain is telling you, don't do it, save me. That's what it's designed to do. Your brain is designed to protect you, and so it'll tell you don't do it if you're feeling uncomfortable. But I want you to start thinking about discomfort differently, okay? Because we think of it as a bad thing. No. Unless you're feeling discomfort about walking into an elevator where there's a creepy guy standing, don't do that. Don't put yourself in danger. But otherwise, rewire your brain. You can tell yourself that this feeling I'm having, of nervousness, discomfort, where sometimes you start sweating, or sometimes you're feeling like hot and uncomfortable. Those are actually some of the same physiological things that happen in our body when we're excited. It's just a shift in the brain. So when you tell your brain, no, I'm not afraid, I'm actually excited, your body's reacting the same way, but your brain is shifting. This is some of the ways in which you're taking control of your career, because you're changing the way, your perspective, how you're looking at things, right? So when you feel the fear and do it anyway, you're going to get past that discomfort, and eventually it'll feel a little bit better. Now, I have a couple of things that I want you to review in this step too. So we talked about networking. We talked about who's your network. I want to come back to, do you have a strong support system? Because that's going to help give you confidence. Because that is the group that accepts you for who you are. When you come home at the end of the day after you're talking and you know, networking and you're meeting people and you're trying to make all those relationships and connections, and sometimes it can feel exhausting and you're like, you don't always let all of yourself out, although I recommend that you try to be as genuine and as you as possible. But that, you know, when you come home at the end of the day, make sure you have a support system, whether it be in your family or friends. And for my international students, we come here with zero network and nobody that we know. It's so important to build your support system as you start going out and building other parts of your life together, okay? The second thing is practice. So if you are uncomfortable, let's say you've determined that you're an introvert, maybe from the reflection stage, and that some of your skills are not so good in the area of having like conversation skills are not your thing. You're not necessarily super personal. You're more a technical person. You're really, really good with like numbers and things like that. Now, you know that in order to build networks and make relationships, you have to have conversations. So practice with your friends, and also do little tests. So for example, like if you're going to the coffee shop, like standing in line at Starbucks, and you're like, this person in front of you is just waiting, just like you are waiting, maybe just be like, hey, beautiful weather, isn't it? Like, just strike up a conversation with a random stranger. And it feels awkward, I get it, particularly like if you're on the subway. My God, subway is a very interesting place. And people are like, why are you talking to me? Or have you seen that TikTok video where this woman, it goes in her car and she just rolls down the car and shouts at her, oh my God, you're so beautiful. I've never seen two people so gorgeous. Like, have you seen that video? What she's doing is just rolling her window down and shouting compliments out to people on the road. But if you see the reaction of the people until she got the words out, you look like a princess today or something, they feel shock and utter like, oh my God, this person, I'm ready to attack them. Why are they talking to me? Until they're like, oh, they're being nice. So you may have a little bit of that, by the way, a bit of that experience, those awkward kind of moments. But understand that but practice. Put yourself in a situation where there's very little risk. So don't do it with a stranger at first. First, do it in front of the mirror. Do I have my mirror one? Yeah. Okay. Practice with friends in front of the mirror. Or with people that you know, friends, family, that kind of thing, or in situations like in line at the coffee shop, so that there isn't a lot at stake. You're not asking for a job from the person at the coffee shop in front of you, just making conversation, so that you're building your conversation skills. You're building this way of having a casual, like, yeah, I'm cool, I can have a conversation wherever I go. These are important skills in building that networking kind of muscle, you know. I use affirmations. Now I know that this is not for everybody, and they're like, oh, okay, so that's like, what is this business, affirmations? And it's telling yourself you are gorgeous, you're beautiful, you're amazing, you can do this, you are strong, you are confident. And I'm saying this in a silly way, and I'm making kind of fun at it, but I also really want to tell you honestly that it really, really helps. And I put this image in here of the Superwoman pose. It's Superwoman. It's Wonder Woman, not Superwoman. Although I think that is Superwoman, but anyway, it's called the Wonder Woman pose, right? Where you stand up and you put your hands on your hips, and what has happened in this position physiologically, again, this is the body affecting the brain, coming back to rewiring your brain. You're putting your hands on your waist like this, and you're automatically your chest is kind of, your shoulders have moved back, right? Because you can't slouch as you're doing this. It's not actually, it's awkward. You're standing up straight. And this kind of movement, again, is telling your body that we're feeling a little more confident. It's actually scientifically proven. But also, I'm going to tell you a little story. It's not, these are like physical things that you can do to yourself. I say things to myself. I say affirmations. I tell myself, hey, I got this. It's okay. I'm a little nervous, but actually I'm excited. And I think I can do this, like I'm feeling good. I'm just going to talk myself into it. And many years when I came years ago, when I came to Canada first, I used to wear the hijab. I came from a very traditional Muslim family, and I would go on the subway in the city of Toronto, and I would get people sometimes staring at me, and I would get looks, and like, I mean, I think there's like a certain level of probably like racism and microaggression there, but we're not going to get into that today. That's for a different day. Um, but at first, it was kind of like a thing that would make me a little uncomfortable because people would look at me, and then I started realizing. Now, I'm sure that this is not the truth, but I started telling myself that they're looking at me because I am so freaking gorgeous and they cannot take their eyes off me. And I know that this sounds completely ridiculous, guys, but I like, this I put this gif in because this woman, she's like, I didn't have my hair open today, otherwise I wanted to do this move where I'm like, I'm so gorgeous. And I would keep telling myself on the subway that these people are not looking at you because you look different or you don't belong. They're looking at you because they can't stop looking at you because you're absolutely freaking stunning. And I know, again, that this sounds ridiculous and that it's almost silly in some way, but I can't tell you how much this helped me. I truly believed it. And when I told this one friend of mine, she said, "Oh my God, you have adopted something called the subway complex." And I'm like, "What is that? Did you just make it up?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, I'm going to use it for my life." And so I'm telling you about the subway complex today, and I want you to make this either the classroom context complex, the Zoom complex, the coffee shop complex. I want you to use this technique of building confidence inside you. Yeah, I'm going to keep going because I don't have time and I have lots of things to cover. I also want to talk about your confidence is going to continue to build if you keep the learning muscle growing. So all of you are here today, and that's again the first step towards that learning, or maybe it's not the first step, maybe it's the fifth or the sixth step for you. But thank you for coming and keep that going. Keep attending meetings and events like this and info sessions where you can maybe if you walked away with 2 interesting things that you were like, oh yeah, I didn't know about that. I can use that in my life. Sufficient, right? Good enough for you. Tons of free events like that around. Keep learning, keep growing. And okay, folks, the third step is literally just do it. We're taking a page out of Nike and we are just going to do it. Okay. Now, what are you doing? I'm going to only talk about, I like to do things in threes. I'm really going to focus on 3 things today. We're going to talk about building your brand. You're going to make friends everywhere you go, which is basic networking. Okay. And I'm going to focus on how to use 10,000 coffees to do that for you. Okay. So that's our what for right now. And how. Like I mentioned, start small and simple. So when I say start small, some of the things that you can think about doing is instead of, again, approaching somebody in person that you don't know, and this is a new process for you, you're a little uncomfortable, think about starting small by writing a quick message to a friend, not even someone at a company, a friend that you haven't talked to in a long time. And what you're doing there is you're writing a message, you're starting to flex those muscles of communicating with people that you don't communicate with on a daily basis. And those are some of the skills that are really important to making friends, building relationships, which are going to help you with your long-term career, your network, and your mentorship. When I say be genuine, I mean try to be yourself as much as possible. A lot of us feel really uncomfortable in professional settings and networking environments when we're talking to CEOs and VPs and that kind of stuff. And we become awkward. Like we become like weird, we're like, oh my God, I just need to be so pro. No, you don't need to be professional. I mean, yes, you need to be professional, but you can be yourself still, right? You can still talk about the things that, may give you joy. Like I don't know how many people are in this session, but I started the session off with a picture of my cats. I want to give you a little bit of me, right? Because it makes me human, makes me a person. So I want you to give a little bit of you to wherever you go, right? So try and that only comes with practice, to be honest. At first I was nervous too, just kind of it's okay. You're going to be accepted for who you are, but be genuine, be yourself. You don't need to be anyone that you're not. Oh my God. And this third one, I love this one. Be curious. Honestly, curiosity killed the cat, but in this case, it made your career, okay? Because the more questions that you ask, the more people love hearing their own voices. Look at me. Okay, I can't stop talking. So you ask questions, people want to answer them, and it shows an interest, right? It's a way of it's a conversation skill. Ask insightful, thoughtful questions so that you can build a rapport. That curiosity. If you fake it, if you're like reading a list of questions from a checklist, no, it's not going to work. It's not genuine. People will know it's not having a conversation. I need you to be legit curious. Like legit, I want you to be like, oh, really? You're from Montreal, but Denise, your parents are immigrants. Where did they come from? Like, I really want to know. Do they speak another language? Do you speak another language? Oh, what language do your kids speak? You know, I want to know everything. When I met Denise, I want to know everything about her life, genuinely. Some people are like, well, I don't care. But no, but you must. You must, because it helps you build relationships. And it's only because I was genuinely interested in Denise. If you are genuinely not interested in someone, don't fake it. They will know. And so will you. It's a relationship that won't last. No point. Being proactive, this is what we're talking about here, right? And we're going to go deep dive into that in the next 10 minutes to talk about being proactive. And I'm going to really delve deep into like focusing on one tactic. We're going to use 10,000 Coffees as a platform, obviously, because you joined this office hour through 10,000 Coffees. But we're going to really hone in on how do I use this? How can I be proactive about connecting with people, building relationships, and therefore helping myself get doors open when it comes to like career opportunities, right? Because in making the bridge between networking and building relationships and career success, the bridge really is what you're doing while you're networking and talking to people and building relationships is you're building trust. And people hire people who they trust. I'm going to say that again. People hire people who they trust. You know that particularly since the pandemic, when a job posting goes up, a hiring manager gets gajillion resumes. And if Denise said to me, Sadaf, I know you're hiring for this position. I know this person who's applied. Do you mind taking a look? Because I trust Denise, I'm actually going to take a look at that resume because it comes through a reference, right? I trust her. And if she's confident enough about this person's abilities to at least say, hey, take a look at their resume, I'm going to do it. Why? Because I trust Denise. And so that's how networking helps you get jobs. Particularly, I found in a North American context, networking plays a huge role. Don't ask me why it is. That's for another conversation. And we're gonna, and the last thing around how to just do it is to use the tools available to you. And so, right, like I said, we're gonna focus on the 10,000 Coffees specifically as the tool today, and we're gonna get going. Although, at this point, I want to just take a moment, Denise and Al, ask you if there's any burning questions that I haven't addressed about the theory before I go into the actual nuts and bolts for the platform.
I think you're good to continue.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, but before I do that, oh my God, what did I do? All right, so one of the questions that I'm going to address here is basically really narrowing down on 10,000 Coffees as a platform that you can use to help you, as a tool that you can use to help you to build your network. And you're going to use it in different capacities, in different ways, but let's get into it. The first thing that we have done, and Denise, I wonder if you can copy and paste this into the chat for everyone if they wanted to take a look at it. We have some resources listed here that we've created for you that are very specific and have instructions and information. The first is a guidebook to help you navigate the 10,000 Coffees and your career journey. The second is a quick overview video. If you're the kind of learner who cannot read an entire like worksheet or whatnot, and you'd rather watch a 2-minute video, we have a video as well done by our lovely Elliot Fenwick. Thank you so much. We also have a series of small videos around how to network, and I've clicked that over here. There's many different components of it, so please do take a look if you're, and again, they're bite-sized, so easy to read. And then we have a couple of articles here that might be very helpful for you, particularly right now in a pandemic when we're still virtual, to navigate mentorship and networking in this environment. So these are some practical resources that you can refer back to from time and time again. Also, this video will be sent to you as well as this deck by tomorrow by email, so you'll receive these as well. So please take advantage of these kinds of tools. But let's now get into the actual platform. So the question is, okay, I signed up for 10,000 coffees. And if you're brand new, you're like, well, how the hell do I use the platform? I am going to show you. So if you get into the platform, your page should look a little bit like this that you see on the left-hand side of this column. And if you're brand new, you're going to be taken to a welcome page that has a lot of these resources that I've just posted, that Denise is just posting in the chat. And also a little bit more information on how you can navigate it. Understand that there are a couple of other things that you can also do, and I'm going to show you as we keep going. The first one is optimizing your setup. So when you joined, you had the ability to, you put in all those information, all those pieces of information about yourself to create your profile, right? And you determined how you wanted people to communicate with you. Some of the important things as you were signing up and looking at your profile is to make sure you add a profile picture, fill in all the possible details you can in your profile, because the more information that we have, the better your the system is going to work for you. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Here, you can determine how you want to communicate with people and interact with people, and you can decide who you want to interact with, okay? So I'm going back to this last page, and if you're like, well, how do I do that once I've already signed up? When you go to this page and you look at the information on the bottom right, on the right-hand side of your platform or your screen, you'll notice that you have the ability of filling in information here. You have information about your introductions. You can click Edit Selection to change the information about your profile anywhere. And the top right-hand corner, you'll see here is like a little circle, which would be where your profile picture goes. You can actually click on that and make sure that you, and change information about yourself. So if you wanted, I can just show you very quickly. I'm in a demo screen right now. And if I click on the top right-hand corner, I can go to Profile. And I can fill in my information. I can add a headline. I can add my photo. I can click Edit Profile. I can put a bunch of information up in here. I can also add icebreakers so that people know how to communicate with you better. Tons of ability for you to change and add more information as much as humanly possible. The next thing that you can do is, and this is one of the easiest ways to take charge of your networking when it comes to 10,000 coffees, is that you can navigate to the members tab on the left-hand side of your screen. And you can literally go into the search bar and search for a keyword based on an area or an industry or an interest or a goal that you have. So let's say you want to meet with other people who graduated from the business program because you want to know what they did after they graduated. You can go into the search bar and type in business, and you can get all of the people who have the word business in their profile. Anywhere in the profile, it'll show up in the membership directory. This is a really simple and easy way to get networking at literally any single time. And the great thing is that all of these people have a connection to your institution. And so they're there for a reason. They're there to support you. As opposed to going, if you're on LinkedIn, which can also be very valuable, but sometimes you can be connected to strangers on LinkedIn and the conversation may be a little bit more awkward, it takes a bit more time, right? Whereas here you have something in common already. So we looked at one simple way of connecting with people, which was through the membership directory, where you can go in, search, you can find people based on a keyword that you're interested in. Now, there's also a component called introductions. And many of you are probably, who've already joined, have received an introduction. If you have not yet, let's say you're brand new, then you might also be waiting for your introduction. So wait a couple of days and this is what you're going to see. What are introductions? Basically, introductions are our system. Okay, our system works a little bit like almost like a dating site, almost, not quite. Is that you sign up, you create a profile based on your professional goals and interests, and our algorithm matches you up based on those with someone who best meets what your goals and interests are professionally, not personally. I do not advocate 10,000 coffees for dating, please. What you're set up to do is most of you are set up to meet someone new, or be introduced to someone new once a month. In some rare occasions, you do have that as once in 2 months, so it depends which institution you are with. What you want to do is you want to reach out, set up a time, and once you've met, you can share feedback. I'm going to talk about these 2 other sections a little bit more later, but the focus really is how it works, right? So which is why it's really important when you fill out your profile, put as much information as possible in so that the algorithm can match you up as best as possible with your optimum match. So let's say you have received an introduction already. What are you going to do? Well, guess what? It comes in an email that looks a little bit like this. And one thing I'm going to ask you, everyone, to do is don't judge too quickly. Please keep an open mind as you are approaching this and the person who you've been introduced to. The email you receive will tell you why you've been introduced to them. So Denise here was introduced to a lovely person called Bin. And it told her in the email that she received from 10,000 Coffees why she was introduced with them. All of this information is available for you. Now, if you want more information on them, which obviously we do, you can click in on their name and it takes you into the platform. And you can look at their profile like you looked at yours. You also have the ability of looking at your matches profile or the person you were introduced. And when I say don't judge too quickly, I put this in because Schwan is a colleague of mine at 10,000 Coffees. And I initially, when I was like, well, what am I going to talk to Schwan about? Schwan is an engineer. He comes from a different life. His, everything is different. But Schwan and I have the best conversations. He's so cool. He's so fun. And I know that, we're going to have now, we've been building our relationship as colleagues for all this time. And it's been amazing. So try not to judge too quickly about who you've been matched up with. You could have the best possible match. And maybe you just didn't realize it, right? Next thing to do when you receive an introduction is reach out. So our system has a template at the bottom. So if I was to click on the say hello button in the email that you saw before, like this button right here, it takes me to the platform and you can communicate with the person you've been matched with. And if you're uncomfortable about writing your own message, you can click on the bottom that says say hello using our template. I've circled it in red so you know where to click on it. And this will give you some pre-written options where you can edit if you like and send it to your match. But if you're feeling brave and you want to send out an outreach message, I've included in this deck, and you'll get a copy of this later, where you can, how to put together or what are the components of a good outreach message. So you can make your own, but also use the tools that are given to you to take control of this. Don't feel awkward and don't write a bad outreach message because there are way too many resources for you to be able to do a good job. So don't write a bad one, okay? When you have the meeting, when you have the conversation, come prepared. I talked about curiosity earlier. Ask questions, come prepared. If you're nervous, write down some questions. Also allow the conversation to naturally navigate that. Don't feel like you have to walk through the checklist of questions that you've written down. But if you're not nervous, just, feel free, be like, okay, I've done a bit of research. I'm going to come prepared. I want to learn about XYZ about this person. Maybe it's their career journey. Maybe it's a hobby that they're interested in. Maybe it's a side business. So do know a little bit as you go in. And if you don't at all, ask those questions, right? What are some of your hobbies? What do you do when you're not working? How did you get this job? Those kinds of questions are really helpful to just start a helpful networking and kind of career-based conversation. Another thing that I would say is if you've been matched up with someone and you don't know why, and you're like, what's going on here? I don't know. What am I going to get out of this conversation? The easiest thing to do is ask them, when you're writing to them, reach out and say, we've been matched up through this 10,000 Coffees platform. And I would love to talk to you about my career and my specific things like my resume building. And maybe they'd be open to you to reviewing your resume and say, I want a third party outsider's opinion. Would you mind if we met and you reviewed, gave me some feedback on my resume? Right there, anyone can give you good feedback around a resume, right? Or as long as they're, depending on where they are in their career, it's worth a shot to have those kinds of conversations, even if you feel like they can't tell you exactly what to do. Maybe they can give you some other support in technical areas that you hadn't thought about. The last thing to do when you've received an introduction is you've reached out, you've had the conversation. Our system will send you an email to ask you if you have had a conversation or not. Please make sure to fill that out because you can give them a compliment. So in that email, I can click on this button and I can give, so this is the email what it looks like, and I can click on this button and leave a compliment for my match, Elliot. You can see that Elliot left me a compliment, which is why I got this email. It says, Sadaf is an A+ public speaker and should do it more. Well, of course, I took your advice, Elliot. Well, look what I'm doing right now. It's so dramatic. Thank you for being here and putting up with me. I'm going to go through this last section here, is what to expect when joining 10,000 Coffees. And when I mean what to expect, it's what is expected of you. The first is that you have an interest in connecting, right? Everyone is joining and we're all expecting everyone to be super interested, right? Why else would you join? You want to talk, you want to connect, right? Which means also that you're going to make an effort. So when you're matched up with someone, you're going to reach out. You're going to make an effort and say, hey, this is why, or respond to somebody once they've messaged you. It's really, really important to do that. And once you're done, once you've met, once you've communicated, or let's say you couldn't meet up and you just had an email conversation or it was just on the phone, express gratitude. Thank them. So I talked about, giving a compliment. If you can't write an email of your own to them to thank them, which you should, just use our system and the platform to be able to leave them a compliment. Simple and easy way to express gratitude, but a strong and really powerful way to build a relationship. So what I mean in terms of how you approach this is that you have control over your career building on the 10,000 Coffees site, which means that if you are ready, gung-ho, and are taking control, then every match that comes along, you want to be reaching out, or if they reach out, you want to respond. Excuse me. Excuse me. And these are the ways, right? So the opposite of what we're talking about today is being passive, is waiting for someone to respond or waiting for an opportunity to come to you. The more curious you are, the more questions you ask, the more conversations you have. And 10,000 Coffees, the 10,000 Coffees platform is easy because you're connecting with people who you already have common ground with. We've already talked about this. Not total strangers. And so it's making it easy for you. The responsibility is on you to go out and reach out to them. And if you're not interested and you're not ready to make, for some reason you're busy, you can't make an effort, you can't connect, you can't respond, turn your introductions off. And that is also on the homepage of the platform. If you navigate down at the bottom where it says your introductions, you can turn it off for a little while. That's okay. Just come back when you are ready and you have time. I'm going to keep moving because I know that I don't have a lot of time. And we want to do a little bit of Q&A at the end. The last thing I'm going to cover is if you are facing any kind of troubleshooting, like if you're facing any tech issues or you want to troubleshoot, there is a help center on the in your page in your profile available. If you click on your profile picture and the second option is help center, this little window pops up and you can always type in, and so let's say 1 month you didn't receive an introduction, so that should not happen. But if it does, you can always go to the help center and type in, and within 24 hours or at least 24 business hours somebody will respond to you. You know how it's like you're like, I'm talking to a chat box. Is someone responding to me? Is someone checking those things? I promise you someone is checking them during business hours. There's always somebody there. So let's say you feel another issue comes along, another problem might happen, is that you reach out to someone and you were ghosted. They didn't respond to you. I know it's not cool, but my therapist says you can only control your own behavior, not someone else's. So what do you do instead? You use the membership directory. You go and search for somebody, or you attend an office hour like this one, because it's learning in a group setting, right? You're still getting something out of this. This is helping your career in some context, right? Other things to think about on a tech level, with a tech lens, is to add 10,000 Coffees emails to your safe list in your email so that they don't go into your junk. If you're not getting emails from 10,000 Coffees, that's one place to start, just to make sure it didn't go into your junk. And periodically go into the system and go into your preferences and update your goals and interests so that you're getting the right kinds of matches ongoing, not just like that you updated at the beginning and then you kind of forgot about it. There is one more section about office hours, but I am, in the interest of time, actually going to skip this because all of you already know what office hours are because you are here today. You RSVP'd to an office hour and you joined us today. So I'm actually going to skip this section and close with a final kind of summary with what should I do next? If you're asking this question to yourself, I'm going to urge you with, don't wait for someone to give you what you need for your career. Please go out and get it yourself. So start building those relationships. Start sending messages to people that might be interesting for your career or that you're just interested to learn from. Maybe they're professors. Maybe there are your parents' friends who have businesses, all kinds of things, right? The other thing that you want to do is that if you have a current introduction waiting for you on the 10,000 Coffees platform, is reach out right now. Why not? Just try it, please. That's why you're here, and that's why they're here. Also, go to the membership directory and message someone of interest. Just do it. Just try it. See what kind of a conversation comes up. And the last thing is, we talked about building your brand and having an online presence. Build your brand by posting about a session like this, okay? So I'm gonna smile so you can take a photo. Okay, and now you can post this on LinkedIn or another social channel that you have to talk about it, because then you start becoming like someone who's interested in this area. When potential employers start looking you up on LinkedIn, they see, oh my God, they're going to these kinds of career sessions, they're interested in learning, they're a lifelong learner. I will ask you, if you're posting about this session, please tag 10,000 Coffees and hashtag RBC Future Launch, who are our sponsors. Thank you, RBC Future Launch. Woo! They make all of this possible for us. So think about, when you're attending these things to kind of feedback to building your brand online. Now, I have talked for a very, very long time. And we have 8 minutes left for a Q&A. So give it to me, people. I'm gonna get out of this screen share so I can see everyone's faces, or at least the chat.
Would you like me to share the first question with you, Sadaf?
Yes, please, Denise.
All right. So the first question is from Shudong Shen, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Asking how is it different, 10,000 Coffees different from LinkedIn?
Oh my, I love this question. Thank you for that. So firstly, it's different because 10,000 Coffees, like I mentioned earlier, we have an algorithm that matches you up based on your interests and goals. And so LinkedIn is like any other social media platform that you just added a bunch of people that you think are interesting or that you have connections with in the professional space. But it doesn't use, you don't know what their goals and interests are, right? And you don't have an opportunity to show other people what your goals and interests are necessarily. It's focused on your experience, and it's a valuable platform, don't get me wrong, but it's focused on your experience and what you've done and your skills that you have. 10,000 Coffees matches you up with people based on what you're interested in, and also allows you to tell people what you're interested in. It also is based on your institution, and so you are connected to people who are, again, you have, it's a warm introduction, you already know, you have something in common, you went to the same or connected to the same organization, same school. And that helps you build a relationship much more casually. We also have the group mentorship, which is the office hour feature, which again, 10,000 Coffees doesn't have, something that you can periodically check to be able to get mentorship in a group setting or information in this kind of a presentation setting like today.
Thanks. All right, we'll go on to our next question from El Sanusi Minaya. Asking, is all of the interaction on 10,000 Coffees via text or via emails or written communication?
So the initial introduction on 10,000 Coffees happens via email. And you have the ability to email them right from the email that you receive, or you can go into the platform and use the chat function in the platform to communicate with them. They will receive an email when you send that message. What you can do, I recommend, if you want to move from an e-communication or written communication to more verbal communication, you can just ask them, can we set up a virtual coffee, send them Zoom information or whatever conference you want, and then you can go to having a verbal and oral conversation. But your initial contact is all written via email or through technology.
Thanks. And we have a multi-part question from Xiaoshuan Kang. The first question, part of the question, and I'll read the whole thing out to you, and then you can go through. Do I have to have a professional brand to find a job? How should I build my personal brand? And usually, how long does it take to build that brand? And as I'm building it, what kind of job should I do? So it's a multi-part question for you.
OMG. Okay, this question is like, we can do a whole session on building personal brand, and I'm going to make that recommendation so that we do that. But so the first question was, remind me, Denise, the first part is?
Do I have to have a professional brand to find a job?
My suggestion is, or my assessment of that is, that your chances are significantly improved if you do. So I'm going to leave that simple as a yes/no kind of question. My opinion is yes. Of course, you can still get jobs without doing that necessarily. However, I would strongly recommend that you have one.
And the next piece was around how long does it take to build that brand, and how do you go about doing it?
Okay, so there's no simple answer to the second part of your question in terms of how long does it take. My experience is that it varies with different people, depending on how comfortable you are, how many people you're. So there was a period in my life for about a year that I was having at least coffee with 1 to 2 new people a week. For about a year, I was so aggressively networking, genuine networking, not with the goal of finding a job, not with the goal of anything, just with the goal of building my network. And that helped me to build my brand, to be honest. The more people I connected with, the more opportunities I got to meet other new people, to deliver workshops, to deliver sessions like this. It can take, I can't tell you, sometimes it can take as short as, I don't know, you start off small, right? And so the thing is, okay, do you have a LinkedIn website, a LinkedIn profile? Does it have a professional photograph? One of the good ways to build your brand. Do you want to, and then you ask yourself questions like, do I want to build an portfolio for the things that I'm good at, or my skill set? Should I have a website? I have one. Not everybody needs one, but that was my decision to help build my brand. And so I think it took me years. It could take some people months. It could take, but building a brand, it's not like a one and done thing. My brand is always evolving. It's always growing. right? And so I think that would be the same for everyone. So you probably have some kind of brand today, whether other people know about it or not. It's probably something that isn't static, right? So it isn't just like, this is what it is and I've done it, I've accomplished a brand. No, I think your brand will constantly evolve as you do and your career goals and your interests change. So so it's ongoing. So it's like a never ending, but how do you get to a point where, oh, like, yes, I have an online presence? It could take, it was simple as a couple of things that you put together. Again, LinkedIn website, some, your own website, more information, articles, sharing content on sites. Those are all ways of building website. Brands, not websites. Building your brand. And then was there a last question, last section?
There was, as I'm building my brand, what kind of job should I do?
That really depends on your personal goals for your career. I cannot assist with that. I think that is definitely more to focus on what you are, where you want to go, what courses have you taken in school, what degree or diploma or certification, or what qualifications you have, and where you want to go. So hard to say what kind of jobs you want to do. Do jobs that interest you and that help you grow your skills, right? So that's a tough one. It would require like a one-on-one coaching, I would say, with someone. But sit down and do those 3 steps. The reflection work is where you would start to do those goals. Now, I know that it's 2:30 and we are at time. So I would really like to thank each and every one of you for coming here today, taking the time. By being here today, you have started the process of taking charge of your career, and you are taking the first step, or maybe it's the 8th step, but you're moving towards taking charge. And don't let, I hope that I've been able to give you a little bit of momentum. So I hope that you walk away today wanting to take control. So please go into your 10,000 Coffees platform and start having those conversations, act on that introduction. Go to the membership directory, attend the next office hour that you get, and keep the momentum going. I wish you all of the best, and I want to thank you so much for being here. You will receive an email from me tomorrow with a recording of this session as well as a link to the deck. Thank you, thank you, thank you.